Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's your host, Holy Joe Rock and Roll, and this is In the News. And the 8th GOP presidential debate occurred just a few hours ago. Remember, I'm 6 hours ahead, so I said to stay up really late. It's now Sunday morning, 7 a.m., and this is my sort of thumbnail sketch of the debate, my reaction to what transpired. Of course, on the stage, sort of starting from the back of the pack downward, you have Kasich, John Kasich, you've got Christie, you've got Jeb Bush, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump. Donald Trump being at the top of the heap. And let's do this as I normally do, starting with some of the lesser candidates and working my way up. Just got to give you a thumbnail sketch, my reaction, sort of my impression of what I saw at that debate, the 8th debate. Now, real quick caveat, the 7th debate I did not cover. If you're looking for that coverage, I did not cover the 7th debate because Donald Trump was not there. And, yeah, I think it was a good decision. Anyhow, Trump being back in the debates really adds a lot of pizzazz and excitement to these debates. And this debate was no different. Let's start with John Kasich. He did a very good performance. I've always liked the guy. It's just, questionable whether or not he's going to get any traction. I think he came in 7th in Iowa. So really, really at the bottom of the pack. But at least he scored some points. He did pretty good. He comes across as a reasonable guy. But to be honest, all of these candidates are now parroting pretty much what Donald Trump has been saying from the get-go about securing the border, building the wall, enforcing the laws. They're all pretty much saying the same thing that Donald Trump has been saying from the get-go. So Kasich, maybe they say it in a little bit softer way, but that's it. Now, so that's Kasich. He had a good night. I would say he had a good night. Okay, he didn't come across as a pussy or a punk or a loser or whatever. In some of the other previous debates, he came across badly. So let's move on to Christie, the governor of New Jersey. He came across very strong, and he put the heat on Rubio. He really embarrassed the hell out of Rubio. You've got to see that exchange where Rubio came out with what Christie called his 25-second canned speech, and then Rubio actually repeated the same canned speech 2 more times. Really made Rubio look like I said, like a debate champ loser who just memorized his index cards, but is really Rubio. Come on, man. Attractive, young, fresh face, but you're not ready for prime time. Both he and Cruz are both, by the way, first-time senators, right? First-term senators. People are always picking on Rubio, saying that we don't trust a first-term senator, but Cruz is also a first-term senator, and by the way, Rubio is only 1 year younger than Cruz, although he looks a hell of a lot younger. He's only 1 year younger than Cruz, so any criticism about Rubio and whether you talk about his age or his first-term senatorship, can be applied to Cruz. And, anyway, that's just really kind of something to think about. People are not mentioning that. And I'm sure if Rubio, whatever, I'm sure those types of attacks will be leveraged against Cruz and Rubio at some time if they need to be. But Christy came across really strong. And did pretty good. Now, Jeb Bush, he came across less retarded on this debate. In the previous debates, he was stuttering, he was touching his nose, his body language was awkward. In this debate, I'm not saying the body language wasn't awkward, but it was less awkward. And he came across better polished. But it's too late, Jeb. It's too late. It's too late to apologize. Anyways, it's too late for Jeb. I believe it's too late. As an establishment candidate, it's just too late for Jeb. But he came across a lot more polished, and it's worth watching the debate. Now, Carson. Yeah, Ben Carson. He had a pretty good opening. and he had a couple of really good sound bites. And one of them, oh God, I tweeted it out what it was, but it escapes me right now. But he has no chance, unfortunately. Ben Carson, it's not going to happen for you, Ben. There may be a role for you in the administration if it's something that you want to do, but you're just not ready for prime time. I'm sorry. The 1 week question was about would he, crank up the volume on bombing, let's say, or lessen the rules of engagement on attacking ISIS. And instead of just saying yes, which is what some of the other candidates were saying, he goes into this whole rambling thing about, I think we need to talk to our military generals, and if that's what they want to do, then that's what we need to look at. It's just too long, Ben. It's too long. Just cut to the chase. You should say yes, and that's it. I mean, pretty much that's it. Yes, we need to, whatever. I think that would have been a stronger answer. But he did have a couple of good sound bites, and that's important. So it was overall I'd say it was a good performance for Carson, but it didn't change anything. Didn't change anything. Rubio. Can we talk about Rubio? Rubio and Christy, like I told you about that exchange. Rubio, this is probably his worst debate. He got decimated by Christy. Christy just in that exchange, and if you just listen to comments, listening, and Rubio's repeating himself, the same goddamn soundbite. He said it 3 times, right? And it just rehearsed canned soundbite, and it just. I think. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but I think Rubio's momentum may. Wow. Excuse me. Rubio's momentum may have been squashed by this debate. Let's go to Cruz. Cruz was really exposed as a liar and an asshole. Let's be honest. What the shenanigans that were done by the Cruz campaign in Iowa, claiming incorrectly and not verifying or even asking the Carson team or any of the other teams if Carson was pulling out of Iowa or pulling out of the race, which he never said he was, and then using that to take votes away from Carson. That's really, you can really make an argument that that's the only reason how Cruz won in Iowa, because Trump was just 4 points behind Cruz in Iowa, and it's hard to tell how many precincts flipped to Cruz because of this lies, basically deception. Let's call it that they used. But could you say it's worth 4 points? Probably worth 4 points. So Cruz and Trump probably would have been, at a minimum, they would have been closer. They would have been closer in Iowa, Cruz and Trump. But Cruz really was exposed. He tried to go through this whole timeline about how trying to justify what the campaign did and that he had no knowledge of what was going on in the various in the caucuses, in the different, and it's true that he couldn't know, but he had to be aware of what was going on. And Ben quickly corrected the situation, saying, look, 1 minute after that tweet went out, his campaign corrected that he's not leaving. He was not, leaving the race. So this whole thing could easily have been averted, and it just shows you the type of Washington-style politics that Cruz is willing to do. And if he's willing to lie about this, what else is he willing to lie about? And it's really the voice. I can't stand his voice and the fact that he was born in Canada. But the voice is just really a problem for me. Can you imagine hearing 4 years of Cruz's voice? I just can't. I can't imagine it. It just would just be horrible. Trump. Let's go to Trump. Trump really came across a lot more presidential, really smooth, very strong. Trying to think of some of the things. So hang on. So there was one exchange when Trump made a comment. Kasich said, I think Donald is correct on some of what he said, and then Donald says, some. And basically, Kasich just parroted what Trump had just said, right? And Bush also. Bush, even when he describes what the candidate has to be, he's describing Trump. He's trying to describe himself, but he's describing Trump. And that really, if you're attuned to it, you pick that up. Maybe I'm projecting, but what he was saying really could apply to Donald Trump. So I think, again, the only sort of knockout blow was against Rubio. I think it won't knock him out, but it'll push him down. I think in New Hampshire, the polling right now really has Trump in a major lead. Rubio may come in second. Who knows? I think Trump definitely came across very presidential, very polished. He wasn't busting too many balls. And one thing to Trump that really came out, I'm remembering now. I'm sorry, it's really late. It's 7 a.m. I haven't had any sleep. And but anyways, bear with me. I'm doing this for you, unscripted, live. But Trump was talking about the audience. Well, he was talking about certain things, and then the audience started to kind of boo him. And Trump reminded the people that the majority of the audience the tickets went to donors and special interest people and PACs, that kind of stuff. And that's who was in the audience. And when they booed Trump, it actually just emphasized or maybe supported Trump's accusations that these guys are corrupt, right? And that these politicians are all talk, no action, because they're owned by this elite group of people who are funding the campaigns. And Trump, of course, is self-funding his campaign. So he's not beholden to any of these lobbyists or special interest groups. And that's the one thing that I think you could really count on, is that if Trump gets in, he talked about the fraud, the abuse, waste in the VA. That stuff's going to go away very quickly. And you really get the sense that being a businessman, a numbers guy, a person who is used to and judged by his performance, right? These companies only survive when you provide a service or a product to your customers that they want. And Trump's been doing that successfully. So you have a real sense that if he is elected president, he will make it happen for the country. That is to say, will take decisive action to combat a lot of this waste, abuse, and fraud that we do see and we know about in the federal government and all these bureaucracies. That is sort of my rounded out sketch of what I saw. I may do a more detailed thing, maybe not. But anyhow, that's sort of the rounded out sketch of it. Overall, it was a good debate. Luckily, we're getting fewer and fewer candidates on stage. We just had 7 tonight instead of 8 or 9. And it, generally speaking, allows the candidates to have a little more time and get you a little bit more chance to or opportunity to get to know these people. But I think the majority of the GOP, at least early primary voters, have kind of made up their minds. That's what the polls are reflecting, that Trump is in the lead. And my prediction is that he will win in New Hampshire. So we'll see in about 48 hours. Yeah, about 48 hours, 50 hours, what happens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Holy Joe Rock and Roll. This has been In the News, presidential GOP debate number 8 coverage.